And exactly, we record this meeting. Thanks, Mac, for starting the recording. So, as per usual, we would like to see who's in the room, who's joining us today. So please pop your name in the chat, your organization, and where you're logging in from today so we can see who's with us, who's in the room. As I mentioned before, we will talk today and have a more deeper look at the CERV program, which is an EU funding program, and we will look at the opportunities that it offers for civil society organizations, especially. I'm not here alone today. I'm here with my beautiful colleagues and some very special guests. So my colleagues join me, and this is Emily. She's the EU Programs Manager at the Wheel, and she will tell you more later about the CERV program. And then also with us is Mac. They are the EU Communications and Events Officer, also at the Wheel, and will share more details about current open calls from the CERV program. And then we have some very special guests today. We're super happy that we're joined by Philip Ternes. Philip Ternes is a contact point of the CERV program in Luxembourg and also as well representing the network of CERV contact points in Europe. And maybe you know there's no national contact point for the CERV program in Ireland. So we're very happy to have Philip here today representing the whole network and especially the contact point in Luxembourg. Thanks for joining us. And then we're also super happy to have on board Bethlehem Solomon and Dr. Salome Mbugua from AkiDwA. AkiDwA is a national network of migrant women living in Ireland, and they will share a case study. So they have implemented a CERV project here in Ireland, and they will share practical insights, experiences, lessons learned from managing a CERV project in Ireland. Just a few things to note. As you see, this session is being recorded. We will share the recording and we will share all slides in the follow-up email. So the follow-up email that we will send after this meeting will contain the recording and also all presentations shared here today. And on the other hand, we would like to invite you to use the chat throughout the whole session for any questions. So we will address them on the go. So if we see there's a question we can answer pretty quickly, we will do that in the chat directly, but we will also have 2 dedicated Q&A sessions, and then maybe we will pick up the questions there. So you're invited to use the chat throughout the session for your questions. We will get back to them. I'll just show you quickly what we have prepared here for you. This is the agenda for the day. We have 1.5 hours. First, we will share a Mentimeter where you're invited to answer 4 questions. This will be around the CERV program itself. So what kind of experience do you have with that? How much experience you have or knowledge you have around the EU funding in general? And then Emily actually will share more details about the CERV program in general. Then Mac will look at current and also upcoming CERV calls. And then we will have the first round of audience Q&As. After that, Philip will share more supports that are available by the CERV Citizens Forums. The CERV Citizens Forum is run by the network, this European network of national contact points that I just mentioned. They offer amazing support structures for applicants. So Philip will tell us more about that. And then we have the case study by AkiDwA. And after that is again the possibility to ask questions. And that's it. So then we wrap up. We will share a little bit more supports from the Access Europe program and also what will follow after this session today. And now I would like you to join the Mentimeter. We have the QR code prepared here for you. And also Mac will share the link to the Mentimeter now in the chat. I will give you a couple of minutes before I start the Mentimeter so that you have the possibility to go over there. You should already see the first question. Okay, so, but to start the Mentimeter, I need to stop sharing now. And we'll start presentation. Give me a couple of seconds. Okay. Great. Oh, you still see the QR code here. Great. Perfect. So we would like to know, first of all, and to see how is like the knowledge of having been involved in an EU-funded project before. So have you been involved maybe as a project coordinator or maybe as a partner, or you're saying no, but I'm planning to do that? That then you're here at the right place, or you're saying no and not sure yet. Again, very good that you're here today because what we also like to try to do is to explain a little bit around this EU program, and then you can see, is this something for me? Would I like to go for this and apply? So thanks for answering this question. Now I need to check. Here is the next question. We would like now to know, especially, have you been involved in a CERV project before? So no matter how, if you have been a partner, if you have been a lead, so let us know yes or no if you have been involved in a CERV, Citizens, Equality, Rights and Values, funded by this EU program before. And I see the majority has not. Again, great, because then this is a very useful and valuable session for you, definitely. So you can also see then, is this something that I would like to go for, I would like to apply for? Thank you so much for answering the question. And I will move on to the next question. We would like to know, how far are you? So do you have a project idea that you would like to develop into an EU funding application? So is this something, do you have like, okay, I have an idea of a project that is pretty concrete. I just would need to develop it to a concrete EU funding application. So, and I'm seeing that most of you are exploring opportunities. That is actually relating to what you answered before in the questions. Yes, but it needs development. Great. So we hope also that we will be helpful today. If you share like some like the case study, for example, that you can see, this is how like a project actually under CERV could look like. Some of you even have a defined idea. Great. Thanks for answering. And here's the last question. And this is rather for us now here at Access Europe to see, because we run a lot of these events, right? And we would like to support you the best we can. So what we're interested in to know is, which area of your funding do you find most challenging right now? Is it about finding relevant calls? Is it about the partner search? You can actually choose multiple here, right? Multiple answers. Is it about understanding the eligibility rules, or is it really like the next step? Is it about like managing those applications? Like, because there's often like a tool, there's a portal by the EU, which can be tricky. I know that myself, to handle these, or is it about the budgeting and also the financial management? This is for us to see what is like, what could like future trainings, what could future webinars look like? What would you like to have, like maybe a deep dive on? And then we maybe like have a webinar on, I see that now, finding relevant calls. So we could do that. Or partner search. I know that this is a very popular topic. We have run multiple events on that already. They are also coming, some of them are coming up, so I will mention them later. Great. Thanks a lot. I will end my presentation here and stop sharing. And I'm happy to hand over now to Emily. So Emily will tell you now more about the CERV program in general.
Yeah, thanks, Christina. It's really great to be here this morning and see a good combination of new and familiar faces. So I'm going to provide an overview of the CERV program, and hopefully you'll get a good sense of whether it's a good fit for your organization's activities. But before we get started, I just wanted to do a bit of expectation management. So most EU funding programs have a national contact point, or NCP, attached to them that organizations can go to for bespoke guidance on all areas of the program. So, for example, the Irish National Contact Point for the Erasmus Plus program is Lergus. The Irish National Contact Point for the LIFE program is the Department of Environment. However, as Christina mentioned, there's no NCP for the CERV program in Ireland. So, Access Europe, we're not experts on CERV, but we're trying to fill a gap here and provide information as best we can, because CERV is a really valuable program for our sector, which you'll hopefully see throughout this presentation. And we're also very fortunate to have a great relationship with Philip, who as Christina also mentioned, is the Luxembourg NCP for CERV, and in the true spirit of EU values, has volunteered his time to join us today. And I'm sure would be thrilled to answer any heavy-hitting technical questions that you have. So with that being said, through Access Europe, we still provide all the relevant updates on CERV and its funding opportunities, and I will cover that as well in my presentation. Okay, so let's have a look at CERV. So CERV stands for Citizens, Equality, Rights, and Values, which surprisingly for the EU is a pretty self-explanatory name for what the program supports. It is the largest ever EU funding program for promoting and safeguarding rights and values in the European Union. And it has a massive budget of 1.56 billion euro for the 2021 to 2027 period of the EU's overall budget. So its overarching aim as a program is to build inclusive and democratic societies by fostering equality and active EU citizenship. And the way that CERV does this is by providing funding opportunities for projects and initiatives that advance and promote these values. So it has a variety of funding calls that are published once a year, and the deadlines for the 2026 calls are mostly in April, May, and September, and Mac will cover those funding calls in more detail during their presentation later on. So CERV consists of 4 strands, and these are essentially the big picture priorities that it wants to advance, and each of its funding calls will fall under one of these 4 strands. So promoting equality and fighting discrimination supports initiatives that promote diversity and inclusion, combat discrimination, and address challenges faced by underrepresented groups. So for example, some of the calls that would fall under this strand include the rights of the child and child participation, proposals to promote gender equality, and proposals to fight against racism and xenophobia. So then supporting citizen engagement and participation. This strand aims to promote exchanges and dialogue between citizens of different member states and to raise awareness of our common European history. So this is where the town twinning and network of towns calls live, as well as calls about strengthening the remembrance of the Holocaust and raising awareness of migration, decolonization, and slavery in Europe. So preventing and combating violence, or Daphne, as it's sometimes referred to, this strand supports initiatives that prevent all forms of violence against women, children, and young people, as well as violence against other groups at risk, such as LGBTQIA people and people with disabilities. And it also supports efforts to combat hate speech, hate crimes, and online abuse. And then the 4th strand, protecting and promoting EU values, supports civil society organizations in their efforts to safeguard democratic values. And it also provides funding to counter threats to pluralism and freedom of expression within the EU. So if this sounds like stuff your organization is already doing, or would like to do, or would like to do better, then CERV might be a good fit for you. Okay, so all of that sounds great, but what does that mean in action? What kind of activities does CERV actually fund? So this is a very non-exhaustive list, but some of the activities in a typical CERV project might include things like this. So developing and delivering trainings and workshops. So for example, maybe you design a training to educate young people about their voting rights and their overall rights as EU citizens. You could also conduct mutual learning activities and capacity building activities. So in practice, that might look like building capacity for local authorities to roll out new anti-discrimination policies for LGBTQIA staff. It also funds things like media campaigns and awareness raising activities. So maybe that's a campaign to help people discern what disinformation or misinformation is online. And then, as I mentioned, it also funds town twinning projects. So these are basically exchanges between towns where they can share best practice in community building and promoting our common EU values. So again, that's a non-exhaustive list, but just a sample of the kinds of things that you could carry out, the kind of activities you could carry out in a CERV-funded project. So who can apply for CERV funding? So essentially, any organization can apply for CERV funding as long as it's a legal entity, but most of the funding calls are aimed specifically at the kind of groups that are listed here. So by civil society organizations, we mean nonprofits, community and voluntary organizations, non-governmental organizations, universities, essentially the kinds of organizations that most people in the audience today are representing. And then public authorities can mean local and regional authorities or bigger government departments. So for example, you might have an organization like the Department of Social Protection as a partner on a CERV project. Some funding calls are aimed specifically at members of EU networks. And then the European Commission also wants to see think tanks and research institutions get involved as partners on CERV projects. And that leads me nicely on to my next slide on partnership. So, as is the case with most EU funding programs, CERV requires you to come together with different partners to deliver a project because EU funding is all about the exchange of knowledge and skill sets. So, usually you need a consortium of at least two partners in a CERV project. It's worth noting that CERV is unique in that some of its funding calls allow for either national, meaning you could have all Irish partners, or transnational partnerships. However, transnational partnerships are always preferred because the Commission really wants to see that your project and its outputs have that kind of added value for other EU member states. So that's something to keep in mind when you're designing a CERV project and reaching out to potential partners. So who can participate? So all 27 EU member states are eligible to participate in the CERV program. And these 8 third countries listed here are eligible to participate in all of the CERV strands except for the Union Values strand. And it's also worth noting that Iceland, Norway, and Liechtenstein do not participate in the CERV program. So we've hyperlinked the list of participating countries here, so you can always refer to that. And if you're feeling daunted by the prospect of finding partners, please don't be put off. So we're going to talk about our follow-on CERV partner matchmaking event and other partnership supports that Philip offers and that Access Europe offers later on in this morning's session. So it's not something to be deterred by. So Bethlehem and Salome from AkiDwA are going to be talking about their own CERV experiences soon, but I thought it would be nice to include another Irish CERV success story here, just so you can see that this is actually doable for our sector. So EASY is a CERV project that the Immigrant Council of Ireland was a partner in, and the aim of it was to raise awareness and develop victim-centered supports for victims of forced marriages. So if you click on that hyperlink there, it'll take you to a page that covers their project activities in depth. And they delivered a really impressive amount and range of activities, but some of the key outputs were the creation of a best practice booklet and customer journey map. They developed culturally sensitive victim-centered services, and they also developed a toolkit for professionals to better identify and support the victims they're working with. So really great work being done here. And like the really fantastic thing about this is that it looks like these methods and tools have been integrated into the Immigrant Council's ongoing work, so post-project lifetime. So they've become a sustainable resource for both their staff and their beneficiaries. And that's really what you want to ultimately come out of any experience that you have with EU-funded projects. So just to wrap up my bit, I mentioned earlier that Access Europe is doing our best to fill the CERF national contact point gap in Ireland. So if you visit our website, which we just overhauled, you will see that we have a CERV entry in our EU funding guide that includes basically most of the stuff that I've just talked about in more detail, as well as links to loads of other CERV resources. So we also post all the current CERV funding opportunities in the open funds section of our website, and we include them in our free monthly newsletter. So if you are not already signed up to the Access Europe newsletter, I would encourage you to go to our website and do that so that you can stay on top of all of the funding opportunities that Mac is now going to cover. So over to you, Mac.
Thanks, Emily. I'm just going to share my screen here. Hmm. Okay, can you guys see that all right?
Yep.
Great. Okay, thanks everyone, and thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Emily and Christina, as well, so far for kicking us off. As Christina mentioned at the beginning of the event, this will all be recorded and also all the slides will be sent to you. And obviously you can't click the slides here now, but once you get sent them in the follow-up email in the next couple of days, there's links on every page for more information, because I do appreciate there's an awful lot of information here in this part. So I'm just going to kind of touch on the key points of some upcoming calls and some open calls, and then if you have any further questions, we have a Q&A after this, and then also of course you can always contact us via email. So first thing, we'll look at gender equality, because I know it's very relevant to a lot of people at this event and a lot of people who registered. So we're going to look at 3 different calls that are open under gender equality at the moment. So the first one is supporting work-life balance, and the deadline for this is the end of April. So the first three deadlines in April. So definitely if you haven't already started on a project like this, you'd want to get going now, because obviously it's a big workload to write an entire project proposal. But this one is on supporting work-life balance, equal share of care responsibilities, family-friendly policies among employers, and the value of the care sector jobs. So the whole call aims to promote work-life balance. And like Emily mentioned, for the first three anyway, CERV is unique in this, in that you do need a consortium of at least two applicants, but they can be national or transnational, whereas usually EU projects require transnational partnerships. So definitely something to look at. And like Christina and Emily mentioned, we'll talk a little bit more about partnerships and our upcoming event towards the end of this event. But yes, and then the budget is between €100,000 and €500,000. And some of the activities supported include capacity building and training for employers on work-life balance, development and provision of training and supports on promoting equal share of informal care, and tackling horizontal segregation, so activities by educational organisations, public authorities, care services. But these are obviously not exhaustive. There's always more you can do, so definitely do check it out if that's what you're interested in. But when you get the slides afterwards, you can check the link and see the whole call on our website and also on the EU funding and tenders portal. The second gender equality call is on supporting equal participation of and representation of women and men in economic and political decision making. And this has the same deadline as the end of April. The same budget, which is between €100,000 and €500,000, and the same partner consortium. So again, it's at least two, but it can be national or transnational. So this call is designed to strengthen the equal participation and representation of men and women in political and economic decision making. So I know this is very relevant to a lot of organizations. So we definitely thought it was worth kind of focusing in on these gender equality calls. And then again, some of the activities supported include development of comprehensive strategies, development of coaching, mentoring, training, and networking events, and activities that promote gender sensitive, family friendly, inclusive, gender balanced, and accessible parliaments or governments. And then the third one on the gender equality call is on tackling gender stereotypes in media and advertising. So, like I said already, it's the same deadline and the same budget and the same partners as the last two. So just these three kind of come together in terms of they're the similar partners required budget and deadline. But this call is aiming to challenge and reduce gender stereotypes and bias in media and advertising. So some of the activities you could look at if you're interested in applying for this would be capacity building and training for relevant professionals, activities that combat gender stereotypes in media and advertising, and projects involving media professionals, including social media platforms, media outlets, or any kind of professional or regulatory bodies. Sorry to admit someone here. So those three are the gender equality ones, and definitely some super interesting options there. Like I said, with that and also with the network of towns I'm going to go into now, they have deadlines of April, so those are approaching. So definitely would be time to get started on that if you haven't already, if this is something you're interested in. But the network of towns is a call that promotes exchange between people of different countries, reinforces mutual understanding and tolerance, and gives Europeans the opportunity to broaden their perspective and develop a sense of European belonging. So for this, it's different to the last three in that you need at least 4 applicants, and it'll have to be from 4 different countries, of which 2 are EU member states, and also they all have to be in that list that Emily shared of eligible countries. And there's no maximum grant limit, the minimum is 100,000. And the deadline is slightly earlier, it's the middle of April as opposed to the end of April. So yeah, for this, activities may include workshops, seminars, conferences, training activities, coaching, and the whole kind of idea is to develop networks of towns to improve cooperation and sustainability and to exchange good practice. So that's something that would be very interesting for anyone who's working in that thing, in that thing. But yeah, like I said, the deadline is fast approaching. But now these ones are going up now. You can take a breath if you're thinking, oh gosh, I have a whole application to write by the end of April. These ones are opening later in the year. We have some coming between May right up until October. So just take sort of less of a detailed look at these, but definitely worth considering because the earlier you can start on these things, the better. So the first one I'll look at is the call to foster citizens' engagement and participation in democratic and civil life of the Union. So this should be opening any day now. We're just waiting for it to go live, but as soon as any of these are live, you will see them on our website in the Open EU Fund, it's called, and also would definitely, if you're not already, encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter because that goes out every month and we upload all the latest calls, so you don't have to go searching through the various EU portals and platforms to find this. They will be in our newsletter and on our website as soon as they're available. So do keep an eye on them. But this call is for promoting the democratic process and citizens' engagement in that, as well as supporting free, fair, and just electoral processes and countering disinformation, which of course is extremely relevant at the moment. And then moving on to the call for proposals to support the application of the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights. So we're expecting this to open around May. It's worth saying as well that in the last slide I shared, they're just indicative dates, so they don't always come out exactly when they say they will. So that's why it's really useful to keep an eye on our newsletter and our website because we'll post them as soon as they are available. But the main objective of this call is to build the capacity of CSOs and their awareness of the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights and support them in carrying out activities to ensure that this Charter of Fundamental Rights is upheld. And it also supports activities that promote and enable a safe civic space. So definitely relevant to lots of CSOs who access our services. And then the last two kind of general ones are the call for proposals on European remembrance, which, if any of you are familiar with this is a project that comes up and it's aimed at commemorating historic events in Europe's history, particularly negative history, such as the Holocaust or slavery and colonialism. And the main objective is always to raise awareness among Europeans of their common history and to foster a sense of like a shared European identity and history. So that should be opening around June. And then the last one I'll look at here is Daphne, which is called for proposal to prevent and combat gender-based violence and violence against children. So this is aimed at fighting violence, including gender-based violence, but it has a wider scope in that you can also apply it to violence against children, young people, LGBTIQ people, and people with disabilities, and any other kind of vulnerable group that's at risk you can apply for projects under this, and that should be coming out sometime in May, hopefully. The last two, we said we'd include them, but these really are for bigger organizations who are more established in EU funding. If you're looking to kind of grow on work you've already done. So the first one is for CSOs who are active in promoting union values and to give support to third parties. So this isn't opening till October, but it's just something to keep in mind if you are far along on your EU funding journey and you think this is something that could be relevant for you. And then opening in March is the operating grants, which can be used for framework partnerships and also for EU level networks. But if you'd like more information on those two specifically, you can always just email us or contact us because those are, like we said, for more sort of established organizations who are ready for the next step. So I know that was kind of a whistle-stop tour, but like I said, you get all this information, and that's why we've kind of built in some Q&A time now, if anyone has any specific requests. So we're going to, before we get into a Q&A on that, we're going to just do another Mentimeter, quickly get a sense of, from that presentation, what you guys are most interested in. So again, you can scan that, or Christina, would you be able to send in the link as well?
Yep, going
It's
to
the
do
same link
that.
as before, but just if you don't have it, it's the same link as before, and you can.
Exactly, it's the same link than before, and I will share my screen a second. I already see that you are joining this. This is just to see, okay, after hearing all this, and we know it's a lot of information, and you would probably need to also do some research on that. I will share my screen now. After hearing all that, what would you be most interested in? Is there any call that you're saying, yeah, this sounds really interesting to me? So here you should see now the screen. So yeah, so which CERV calls are you most interested? Again, you have like multiple options here. And I see now citizens engagement. Yeah, this is what we hear a lot. Gender equality also, it offers like really good opportunities and you should check it out. There are like multiple calls under this topic at the moment. Network of Towns usually also is very popular. And then what was just mentioned, Remembrance and Charter Call, and also Daphne Call will come out later. So you will also get probably more information on that later in the year. But citizens engagement, yes, we can see that this is one of the most popular. Great. Good to know that. This is very helpful also for us to plan and maybe future sessions. Maybe we do one more on citizens engagement or something like that. So we will just check what is needed here, or we will do, or we will provide more information in a different way. Thanks a lot. So I had a look already at the chat and at the questions. And I'm happy to start answering some of them. I would loop in my colleagues and also maybe Philip at some point. I just saw the very first one was, are political parties allowed to participate in the program? And I can tell you so far, no, not eligible for funding or even to be project partners. And also, like Philip, please correct me here, but just to make like sense of it, why is it not allowed? CERV is managed by the European Commission, so it's a new funded program, and the EU Commission is strictly non-partisan. So funding party political activities or actors is not possible. So just so that you know why it is like that. Of course, they are funding organizations that have political activities. Yeah, but in itself, it's not possible to fund political parties. Philip, would you agree with that? Great. Thanks a lot. Then, does CERV do core funding or only activity? So I would answer it's primarily activity based. Yeah, but it also includes operating funding. But we come to back to that later. So first of all, if you receive funding, it is for project activities. So it's for clearly defined activities for outputs and timelines. So you apply with a work plan, with a budget, with deliverables, with KPIs and so forth, and then you have to deliver on that, right? So it's not like for something else. If there are staff costs or overheads or other admin costs, it always needs to be linked to the project that you applied for. So you can't use it for anything else. I mean, you can be creative, let's be honest, be creative here, but it needs to be linked to the project, and they also do like thorough checks on that. Yeah, and you need to deliver on that, and you need to report on that. So yes, this is linked to that. But Mac just mentioned the operating grants. And we already told you this is for established organizations, only for very certain organizations. These are usually European level civil society organizations, so networks or umbrella organizations. And these operating grants can support the overall functioning of your organization. This can be staff, governance, communications, and so forth. But this is really like for a very specific group of organizations only. It still require you to have a like a plan and to hand in like an application and all of that. So it is highly competitive to get these operating grants, and it's only really for a very small group. But maybe you fall under this, and then you should have a look at that. Then it can also be used for core funding in that sense, but like local or national, yeah, I would like in general expect project funding only. Again, Philip, any comments on this?
No, that's right. Yeah, the funding you. So hello everyone, happy to be with you. Yeah, as you said, Christina, the funding you receive, you should officially you have to spend it within the frame of this project that it has been granted for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Again,
Then of course in CERV we have three different funding mechanisms actually. So depending on the call. So there are the budget-based calls where you really need to do a very traditional type of listing of all the expenses. So for example, the charter call, the Charter of Fundamental Rights would be of that type. And then you have two different lump sums. You have lump sum one, that's the easier one. Well, it's supposed to be the easier one. But basically, yeah, here you receive your funding based on the events that you organize. And then you have lump sum two, and here you can provide more details. So also, for instance, project management would be one of the budget areas. Yeah.
Exactly. So it is possible, but linked to project funding. Thanks a lot for this, Philip. And then the next question I've seen there is, does CERV require match funding? And if so, what's the percentage? I saw actually two questions around that. So yes, again, here, usually it requires match funding. It depends, as always, on the specific calls. What I know is that it's usually like funded 80 to 90% of the eligible costs, and the remaining 10 to 20% you should be covered by yourself. Yeah, I see you there, Philip. So yeah, so 80 to 90% usually is covered by the fund itself. You would need to look that up for this very specific call. This can be like really different. So, and then I saw some more. Um,
So I can see someone
yeah,
asked, is
yeah.
it possible to apply for a grant without a partner? So in terms of EU funding in general, it's very, very rare that you don't need a project partner in EU funding. And then in terms of the CERV calls, you will always need a partner when you're applying, and it depends on the call. So like I said, for the gender equality calls, you can do it with only two partners and they can be both from the same country. But then if you go into other calls, such as the network of towns or the other ones, like I said, always check the specifics on the call on our website, but in general, it would be four partners from different countries in the eligible country list, which is obviously the EU countries, and then the is it 6 or 7 extra countries that Emily included. And then you followed up with, if there's a situation where you can't find a partner, is it possible to apply for a grant alone? And I will defer to Emily and Christina if I'm wrong, but I would say no, you will need a partner to apply for a grant. But that's why we're here. And that's
Yeah.
why we have lots of resources and events on finding partners, because I know often for Irish organizations that can be the most difficult part in a project.
Yes. So maybe also to make sense of this again and where like the EU is coming from, this is European funding. And like one goal is to connect Europe, like to work together on something. This is like the actual goal of it, so that there is like European, like really togetherness, like across borders and not just this. Then if you would say, look, I don't need a partner for this project, go for national funding. There are opportunities also right now out there, actually interesting ones. Communicating Europe initiative, you should have a look at that. So then do it. If you say like, look, I don't actually need a partner from a different country, it wouldn't make sense. You should probably go for a different kind of funding, because the whole idea is to connect people across kind of national borders. And I see Philip there.
Yes, thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
Just wanted to quickly jump in. I wanted to mention, for example, for networks of towns, as you said, the minimum is 4 partners, but we did a study on the last call on
Mm,
the successful projects, and most of them have, let's say, on average, they have 7 or 8. So that's also something to consider. Don't go for the minimum, because the commission or the executive agency considers that if you go for the minimum and maybe one of the partners drops out, then your whole project would not be eligible anymore. So go for, I would say, at least 6 or 7 to considerably increase your chances of being selected.
exactly. This is like actually happening more often than you think. So it could really be that like maybe the resources change, or like the partner that really doesn't have the capacities anymore. Of course, you have probably signed a partner agreement beforehand, but things can happen. Like this is life, right? Because you also oftentimes you apply for a grant, but then you get the grant 1 year later. It takes like long time. So the things and the realities can change. So also that's why it's good to go for more partners to make sure, oh yeah, we actually will be able to then also deliver on this project. Because if a partner drops out and you're not able to find a new one, you will not get the money. So this will also mean the end of the funding itself. They can be flexible. So I found that myself. They can be really flexible with this stuff, but still there are rules. And if you can't, then don't have like enough partners. You didn't deliver on what you promised. And I just saw one question. I'm interested in funding for the first strand, promoting equality and fighting discrimination, particularly racism. Will there be a call for those types of projects? I would say yes. Uh, I don't know when, or do we have information on that one? Probably
And
not,
I would
right?
defer to Philip there.
Yeah.
Like we just have like the indicative planning for 2026, and in the equality strand, it's just gender equality for now. Maybe that'll change later on in the year. So again, it's just something to monitor. You can sign up to the newsletter and we'll have that information there. And Helen, I can also just take a note that you are interested in that kind of funding. And if it becomes available, we can reach out to you directly and let you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And just reacting to one comment that I saw there, that you have applied for CERV 3 times and have been rejected, and yet you're waiting for one. So yes, so what we could offer is that we have a look at this. So just I would do that now. So why not? Like let's have a chat. We can set up a meeting and we can chat about that. But also what we did before is the application writing training. So we had that. They had 2 sessions on that. So first of all, we had like a kind of a start, but then like a deep dive into application writing. We can share those 2 trainings also in the follow-up email and also here in the chat. So have a look at that because our colleague Emma Murder, she's writing the applications for us, and we also received funding from the EU, from different EU funding programs. And what she's doing there in this application writing training is like really sharing the tips and tricks, what you should look out for doing so. And maybe this can like help a little bit. But again, like I'm just offering here, reach out to us, and then we are happy to also have a look at the applications. Great. So what I would do now is to wrap up this Q&A session. We have one more later on, and I would like to hand over to Philip, sharing now the supports that are available and information around the whole CERV Citizens Forum. Thank you so much, Philip, for being here today with us. So you're on mute there still, I think.
Sorry, I was muted.
No worries.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Emily, for the invitation. Very happy to be here with you again. And let's see, what maybe joint platforms or initiatives we can come up with today. Sorry. So I will shortly present what the NCPs are up to, the national contact points, and the type of support that we are providing. As you said, we are called national contact points, but we very much work in cooperation. So we also support applicants, of course, in countries where there is no official NCP, and we try to really distribute the work as much as possible. I think you should be able to see my presentation already. Good.
Yes.
So there's a QR code if you wish to immediately download these few slides of the presentation. I could also put the link here in the chat now if I find it. There it is. Okay. So on the next slide here, you can see where the NCPs are located. There should be 26 of them currently, not in all the EU countries, but already covering much of the Balkans. I'm putting you, I think it has been shared earlier on, but just in case, I will put it again here in the chat as well. Right. Then a quick overview of our mission as NCPs. So you see that we work across 4 main dimensions: information, advice, support, and dissemination. So this means that we also offer capacity building, of course, on how to create promising applications, and we compile the best practice on the basis of the results that we see, the selection results as well. We can even help with writing the proposals because, as you probably know, we have no say when it comes to the selection of the projects. They are evaluated by 2 to 3 external evaluators. You could actually apply to become an expert evaluator. I'm putting the link here in the chat. But of course, if you do so, if you become an evaluator in a certain call, you won't be able to participate or in that type of call or to apply for that call. So there is a trade-off, of course. There's a choice to be made. And then from these evaluators, so all the projects that reach a specified points threshold, they will be reassessed then by a committee in Brussels, convening on each particular call that will make the final decision, actually. So there are 2 steps at least in the evaluation process. And I would like to mention that the EU Commission, it now increasingly views applicants and project holders as key actors in implementing EU policies. So particularly the priorities of the European Commission itself. I think this is a crucial point. Because sometimes we assume that the project development, it works mainly in a bottom-up way, with the applicants proposing, their own ideas and projects. Now they actually increasingly need to take into account the official policies, those that are mentioned always in the call document, the initiatives, the instruments that are outlined there in the respective call document. So that's really a point that's more and more important as we are finding out. Finally, of course, we as NCPs, if you need help with dissemination activities, we can help you share the results of your project or maybe reach out to wider audiences. That's also something we can do. And yeah, Christina, I think the matchmaking has been mentioned several times. So of course, we facilitate matchmaking. We help you find partners across countries and sectors, not only during the events, but we have different tools. One of them is this one, the NCP CERV Partner Search, the online platform, which allows you actually so you can join as a project leader, you can join as a partner or an advisor. I'm going to put the link, you have the QR code there, but I'm going to put the link here in the chat as well. So it allows you to publish your own ideas, your project ideas, and also to connect with potential partners at any time. And it has, let's say, a more advanced search function, because you probably know the Funding and Tenders portal also has a partner search, the official portal of the European Commission. But this one has a few more, let's say, filters that you can use. So you have all kinds of options in the top left corner. You can combine different filters at the same time. So you could search for people that are interested in a particular call, in a particular field, from a particular country, the role they would like to take on, and the types of partners that they are looking for instance. So you can really get very creative in your searches here. Then I'd like to shortly present 3 types of events that we are organizing. The first 2 are online. So we have tried to, come up with a small ecosystem of events and tools to also grow the community, to support each other mutually. The first one is the CERV Citizens Forum. So this one is organized, it focuses on a given CERV call at each time. And what happens here is that, well, first you learn about the call, then you can also shortly present your own project ideas, moderate your own breakout rooms to expand your partnerships, and this with the direct support in each room of the national contact points. So here, it's really an opportunity to join projects that are already in development and will be submitted soon ahead of the next deadline. So you can participate as a project leader or a partner simply exploring the opportunities. So that's the Citizens Forum, focusing on one call at each time. Then we also have an innovation forum, and you see the next one here is coming up on the 17th of March. This is to actually push the ideas a little further. So this is about innovation. It's supposed to create a space to discuss emerging challenges aligned with the CERV priorities and to push ideas beyond the existing practices. So we have this one coming up. That's the 4th priority of the gender equality call, as you have probably noticed. We had a previous one that was on one of the priorities of the upcoming CIV, so Citizens Engagement and Participation call. And we usually produce very comprehensive reports on these events. They are usually only for the participants, but for you, we will make an exception. Of course, I'm sharing the 2 latest reports here in the chat as well, so you can take a look. They also include partner searches, for instance, and yeah, lots of things we can take into account if we wish to apply for one of these calls. Here at the Innovation Fora, we usually start with an interactive panel to explore the new approaches. And then we ask people again to suggest topics or project ideas for the breakout rooms. So this is really to support applicants in view of making the projects as transformative as possible, let's say. And finally, if I still have a minute, I'd also like to mention the project design forum that we are organizing for Luxembourg and the greater region. Who knows, maybe we could organize one together, either in Dublin or maybe more in the center of the European Union or of Europe. Like Vienna could maybe be a good place, easy to join for everyone. So this is a face-to-face event. And here people really collaborate on project ideas. So they write their applications together. You have to present a project idea beforehand. So you can moderate a project table. You can lead a table. You can simply join the discussions that are initiated by others. And at the same time, so it's in with the participation of multiple funding contact points, because as we know, sometimes these programs, they overlap. And so it's good to have the NCPs of various programs present on site. So they can also, of course, consult you on where you would stand the greatest chances. And where your project would fit best. So here we are cooperating with Creative Europe, with Erasmus Interact, and also with the Anna Lindh Foundation. That's a foundation for dialogue in the whole Mediterranean, actually. Right. So yeah, I'll be happy to hear your ideas on this. Maybe just to round off, here are some social media links if you'd like to follow the NCPs and see what else we will be coming up with. And I'll be happy to keep in touch. If you have any questions about your applications, please reach out. So we consult one another as NCPs to ensure that you can receive the best possible support that we can provide. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Philip. I think it's amazing what kind of support you're offering there. And I must say, what I especially like is that this is under a truly European spirit, that you're saying no matter from what member state, like you're supporting them all. So this is what we would like to see in Europe, right? So thanks a lot for offering all of that. You shared all the links there also in the chat. We will also include them in the follow-up email so people will have the possibility to reach out to you. And thanks also for focusing on the partner database. I think it's a great resource. I'm a huge fan of this partner database. Yes, there are others out there, but this one is like really, you have all these filters so you can really find the call and the people that you would like to work with. So I can highly recommend to check out this partner search function that they've implemented there. And also just if you give me a minute, because what you mentioned there with the implementing EU policies and that the focus shifted towards that. I found that myself also when I looked now through the gender equality calls. And let me just share my screen here because yes, the official policies to tackle those official policies actually is a thing, because also what I found is the following. Let me show that. Let me show you that. Where do I have it? Yeah. So but as you mentioned before, we upload all the open EU funds on our website, and I did the one on CERV. So you see them here. There will be more also coming if they are open. But if you click in one of those, let's say you click here in CERV supporting work-life balance. What I found is that they now listed the policy initiatives supported. So you see all the policies that are supported by this strand only, and this is a lot, and this goes for all the calls. I found it also myself. I was like, okay, so you should really make sure to also check out the gender equality strategy, the roadmap for women's rights. You see that here. There are even listed lots of directives. The digital education plan is included. So this is, I found that is kind of like the focus for me. I saw that as well when I looked at these calls is different, because usually they list those EU policies, but like this was a different way, right? It was just like my impression now. So again, just highlighting this, that yeah, make sure to check out those policies read them, make sure to include them. This is what the Commission would like to hear. Thanks a lot, Philip, again. And now I would like to hand over to Bethlehem and Salome for telling us a little bit more about how it is to actually implement such a CERV project in Ireland. You're very welcome to share your presentation. Yes.
Thank you. You can see it, yeah?
Yes.
Yes, and yeah, I'll actually, I don't know how I'm marking it. Yes. Sorry, yeah. So you can see it. Thank you so much, Christina, and thank you, everyone. I've actually also learned a lot from this meeting. I'll be sharing fast, and then Bethlehem will also add into what we are doing in our current SAFE project. Just to say that, in terms of AkiDwA, we'll be really sharing our learnings and strategic reflections on, the CERV, funds. But before that, I wanted to share about ourselves very quickly so that you understand where we are coming from. We are a national network of migrant women living in Ireland who were founded in 2001. The organization is led by migrant women and for migrant women, so we specifically focus on issues affecting migrant women. We focus on gender equality and human rights, like maybe most of you are doing. And we have a main office here in Dublin and a regional one in Galway. And actually, the one in Galway is the current one that is hosting our project, this SAF project that Bethlehem will talk a little bit about on what is happening there with the project. We are overseen by a board of management of 7, and we are supported also by an advisory board. We have 12 full-time staff, so we have 2 working in Galway, and the rest are working here in Dublin, but our work is mainly on outreach. As part of the SAF project, we also have 8 community experts who are supported by the funds that we get. So they get a little bit of, funds that help them, to complement the support that they're giving to the organization on our work. We also overall have 2 men who work with us. We are a women organization, but we also work with men, especially to be able to support our work that we are doing with women, because sometimes we find it challenging, when women are trying to, discuss with men, especially about their reproductive health. We are funded by various departments, philanthropies, and EU funding as well. So apart from the EU funding that you're getting from the EU itself, we're also getting from some philanthropies at EU. What we did actually a long time ago, we set up a participation identification code, because you have to have this when you're applying for the CERV project or for EU funding. And so we've had this peak for a long time, which when any partner approaches or when we want to apply for EU funding, we have to be able to include this participation identification code. And I hope everybody who is attending this meeting, they have already set their peak, because you have to have the peak. And our work really, before we even engage a TU funding or any funding, we are really, our work is dictated by our strategic plan. The current one that we have is 2026 to 2029. And our key focus areas are, voice. We want to build the voice of migrant women, and their voices have to be heard, whether, in speaking or in document that we produce, or even in any work that we do. And like I said earlier, we are really very much rooted into equality and equity as well. Equality of access, equality of participation, but also equality of outcome. We also work on capacity building, collaborations, which is very key. We like collaborating with other organizations and groups, and we also work on our own organizational development to ensure that you're able to manage funds and we are transparent and all that. So a key area of work is DSGBV, where when we are actually looking for EU funding, we have to ensure that it's in one of these areas. So DSGBV, for example, we have female genital mutilation, we have domestic violence, we have early enforced marriages and trafficking. So if we are applying under CERV, it has to be, the current one, we have to actually focus our work on those areas. Even the partners approach us, we have to be able to ensure that, if it's on DSGBV, it's one of those areas, 4 areas. We also work on health, so reproductive health mainly, and mental health and integration as well, because we want the women to access the labor market and to be able to access the labor market. So what is our current situation with the EU CERV program? We are under the Citizen Equality Rights and Values, and actually Christina explained this earlier, so I don't need to go there. And it's really focusing on fighting violence against women and girls. The program fund project is focusing on prevention, awareness raising, training, and building the capacity of civil society organizations. So these civil society organizations are us in Ireland and 4 other European countries. So our current project is called SAFE, which is to support and aid for female genital mutilation and early enforced marriages. Just to say that this project is not new. We had actually applied for, with other partners, a previous project which ended up in March 2025. And before it finished, we extended, by applying for a follow-up project, which we called SAFE. So the project we have now, it's not purely a new one. It was still on female genital mutilation and early enforced marriages under the title of Join Our Chain. But now it's the SAFE project, which we managed to secure because we said we wanted to build on the work that we were doing before. We are with 5 EU member states. So we have France, Italy, Spain, and we are also having, Belgium. We have the network of, EDFGM, which is based in Belgium itself, which help us actually sometimes to get, partners. So sometimes they recommend partners from this network. So it's easier for us this way. The current funding build, like I've said, the Join Our Chain, which we had actually gotten from 2022 and finished in March 2025. And we built it on, we started doing the application in 2024 before this fund came to an end. And we got the fund then before the end of 2024. In terms of identifying the strategic focus on the area, for our organization, it has to be aligned with our mission, and our mission is to promote equality and justice for migrant women. So it has to be about women, migrant women, and issues that affect migrant women. It has also to be in line with our strategic objective. Like I told you about the voice, about equality, and equality is huge and key for us as well. And also it has to be in line with EU CERV core priority. And also we have in this fund, for example, that we have currently, had to have a 10% contribution. So we had to check, do we have this 10%? Sometimes it's through the administration that we are doing, which is not included in the actual, actual amount that we get from EU. If, other staff are contributing their time. For example, we had a lot of our staff, training the community leaders and trainers, to deliver the current training that we have at the moment. So we try and see where can we get this 10% contribution, because sometimes it can hinder, organizations from engaging from the project, even from the application, because you may think you don't have that 10%. So you have to come up with a way, or, look into a way of how do you include that 10%, where do you get it? Also, in terms of securing partners, this is not the first EU project we've had. Like, we have been involved in EU project in the last over 10 years, 15 years actually. So, but this one, CERV funding is partnership driven. So we had to look for partners. And in our case, we didn't actually go looking for them. They came also looking for us. So we were looking for partners, and some people are looking for partners as well. And so we identified EU-based organization, with complementary experts. So they had to had expertise on the area of FGM and early enforced marriages. They also had to be, to have interest on the areas as well. So it's not only the expertise, it's only the interest on the area. Just to say that female genital mutilation is one of the key area of our organization, and we are the only organization in the country that is working on this area. So we had very high chances of actually getting partners and, working on it. We also assessed capacity and credibility of partners, because, we had leader when we got all of us, the 5 of us, we had to check, have they been involved in the EU funding before? What happened? Because people do due diligence, to see that, they will not let you down, because one partner can let you down completely. We also had to agree on lead partner role and who is the lead partner. In AkiDwA, we never actually took the lead partner because lead partner involves a lot of work. And so for us, we felt that it will be too much, to take the lead. So when we came all of us together, we looked into who can take the lead, and they take the lead. The lead partner get a little bit of more money than the others. So that's the advantage of being the lead. But also you will have more work, and you'll have to ensure that everything works. We also had to have clarified responsibility earlier, like what was our responsibility. The current responsibility we have now in the CERV project is that, we are the representative of the community. So within the consortium itself, within these 5 organizations that are involved, we are the one who are very much well rooted in the community. So we have that access to the community. We understand the issues of the community. And so we come up with suggesting, the recruitment process, what is needed to maintain and keep, the community leaders as well. And then the developing of the proposal, this is a joint project. So it's we have to agree on all the objectives that are coming up, and then allocation of work packages. Like us, we assigned 2 work packages, but when you assigned, there's overall 5 work packages in the CERV project. But even though you're assigned 1 package or 2, it doesn't mean that you're not involved in others. You're also still involved in other packages. And so we have to work on that, and agree. And also we are really working so hard so that we don't let others down. So it's really like you have to put a full commitment. Agreement on output and deliverables. Again, it's all depend on like how much are we getting. So because you cannot suggest output and deliverables that you don't have, finances to be able to deliver, or you do not be able to deliver. So we agree very well based on our capacity and we are going to involve. And by this, because our project, it's actually the CERV project that we have now, it's 30 months. So it also gives us a very good timing. And it's giving us co-funding, which means, the staff, funding, we have a full coordinator who is actually Bethlehem herself, the time of other staff who are going to be involved, including, in finances, because managing finances is one of the most important part of this project. If you don't manage well, you end up being asked to return the money that maybe you have already used to the EU. We had this experience before. You don't want to return the money. So from the very beginning, you look for funding that you'll be able to get somebody to monitor how you are spending, and that you are in line with what you said you would do. Because if you don't do it, they'll ask you for that money, and there are a lot of questions, which comes on the portal because you have a portal. Then development of detailed budget, to help us to know, we cannot just take a project that will end up going at a loss, or that will end up giving us more stress than even helping us to be able to advance what we want to advance in terms of missions and action. And then defining timelines and milestone, because everything goes with the timeline. And EU want you to be able to reporting to them based on the timeline that you have agreed. So once you sign the contract, you have legally binded yourself and your organization that you're going to follow what you have agreed with them. So you have to go with this. So you have to be very careful when you apply for the funding, that you're putting yourself fully to develop and work on this project. And once funding is approved, AkiDwA has focused on establishing internal management and structures. Like we have actually somebody who is helping us to monitor and ensure that we have all the receipts, and invoices, because we've had a problem of not having invoices, and you have to be able to evidence, they have to have all these. Sign partnership and agreement, scheduling regular coordination meeting, especially with the consortium. So there's a lot of meetings sometimes, and sometimes you may even end up changing the project from what you had put in the proposal. You may change it. I give you a quick example. At the moment, we have around 21 community leaders from different organizations. They may be more than 21. And we felt that it would be good to bring them together to have a clear understanding and consistent messaging of EFM and FGM. So with this, we wanted to bring them together for a physical meeting. Again, we have to write to the EU and request for this, and and move on this. So you can change things, but you also have to ask the EU. You cannot just go changing things without asking. And then in terms of monitoring progress against work plan and all that, this is very important. That even me, for example, as the CEO of this organization, I'm not the the coordinator for the project, but I have to ensure at the end of the day you are responsible. I'm responsible to the board. I'm responsible to the EU and the partners as well, especially the lead partner, to ensure that we are all working with a common understanding that we are using the money properly and we are implementing the project accordingly. We have found it actually challenging in terms of monitoring, reporting, and evidence collection. And evidence collection is the very difficult one, because also they are some of the things that you should have, like logos and all these kind of things. So documentation of activities and the logos matters, attendance sheet and participation, case studies and testimonials, financial recording. This one, it has to be very clear. For us, we have found it to be, like really challenging, because you have to be able to keep record of this. And if you are then dividing the money, or like you are separating the money, or trying to do, a separate of, what you're doing with other projects and what you're doing specifically with this one, it has to be really thorough. Then in terms, interim report, financial reporting, evidence submission, financial narrative, and financial report. Sorry, I'm very quick because I'm also conscious of time. What are the benefits, because we felt that we had so much to share, but also where do you start and where do you not actually start? I just want to encourage everybody that, even if you have not gotten the funding, try again and again, because I saw some people have not gotten. Even us, sometimes we apply every time. And I'll say one of the benefits at the very end there. So in terms of partnership strengthening, it helps us to come up with clear role and communication structure, which don't only help at the European level, it also helps us here at national level. It's also helped national collaboration and consolidations, because we are working with so many other partners as well at our level. And then European level cooperation and feasibility, we have been to the European Parliament. Our organization is actually displayed, because of the work that we do. Development and production of tools and reports. If you go to our website, you see like some of the training manuals that you have produced and tools and the reports, after this, and also some videos. We had a very good program, as part of this with young change makers, and they came up with very innovative ideas, which we have actually publicized, including a film. They've also come up with a podcast and TikToks and all these kind of things. And then in terms of capacity building and leadership development for the community, our community is better than it was before. They have had structured training and support, strengthened community expertise, exposure to, EU values and policies as well. And at the same time, our community leaders are paid. We pay them a small amount. This has also been agreed with the EU. We cannot come up with this. It's agreed from the very beginning. You're giving them this amount, and this motivated them even to do the work. So both in places where we are doing this project. Exposure, then at organizational level, improved grant management system, because they help us with the money. We get money funding, like the project that we had before. We got money to be able to help us manage. We had actually a specific amount to help us get somebody to help us with the managing of funding and looking into the monitoring, enhanced monitoring and evaluation, stronger EU positioning. And this is also funding, it's core funding. So the staff, we have like maybe equivalent of 2 full-time staff. It funds activities. It also funds capacity building for community who are compensated for their time, including the young change makers. And the project that we have at the moment, it's 30 months. So it's really like good timing, to have that project for 10 months, 30 months, and it's good money as well. It's actually one of our largest, revenue for the 30 months that we have within the organization. This is my last one, and it's actually the key organization learning over the years. And so what we have learned is that alignment with the EU priority is critical. We have to be very, very much careful that we don't just take in a project for the sake of having a project and having money. It has to align with the EU, but also our own priorities. Strong partnership are central to success, that you may get partners that will let you down. So you have to be very clear. Even when you're invited, you also have to be able to check, their record of before, like have they, been able to manage. And like I told you before, sometimes we returned money. This was around like 6 years ago where we had to return some of the money. It was actually during COVID-19 and we had already spent that money. So you have to be very careful, because also some partners could lead you even to having the audit, to come and happen. Then clear internal coordinations, which improve delivery. Financial management must be thorough, so it must be meticulous. This is important because you will be asked to return the money that you don't have if you don't manage it well. Documentation and reporting require continuous attention. Extensions are more successful when previous impact is clearly demonstrated. So like I told you, we've been actually moving from one EU funding to the other. This is the second one. And actually before we are invited to be partners with this group that that we are in now, they had another one. So like you could go even up to 9 years if you want to continue building that work. So that's really us, and I don't know whether Bethlehem want to say something very quickly about this, how the SAFE is working on the ground, but we'll be producing materials and tools at the end of this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Salome. I can relate to so much what you're saying there right now because in like a different role, I'm managing right now two CERV projects. So I will react to that in a second, but I saw Bethlehem, you also would like to share just very quickly. Thanks a lot, first of all, Salome. I'll get back to you in a second. Yes, so Bethlehem, you would like to tell us a little bit about the CERV project?
Oh, yes, thank you very much, Christina, and as well, Dr. Salome. So my name is Bethlehem. I coordinate the project of SAFE, which just under AkiDwA. So I know we're left with 10 minutes or so, so I'll try to run through the project in general. So what SAFE stands for is support and aid for FGM and AFM. So FGM is female genital mutilation and early forced marriage. AFM stands for early or forced marriage. It's an EU-funded project. So how the project works is we work together with other 5 EU countries. So we have Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain working with us. Those organizations in those countries are which hosts, large diaspora communities. So they would be working very, very well, or they have like good connections within the community within their country. So the lead of the consortium would be Germany, which is Terre de Femme. So we, as Salome mentioned as well, we have various work package. We have 5 work package. Each of us will get one work package where we lead on, but we'll still be working on the other 4 work package, which means that we'll still need to check if we're implementing every activity within those work packages. It's focused on preventing female genital mutilation and early forced marriage, and as well in terms of protection for those women who are at risk or who've already undergone such practice. It's a very interesting project because it's not only community based, but we also work very well within the advocacy setting where we have intervention models, development of intervention models, where we eventually will raise it to the EU Parliament and so forth. So we not only work on the community, but we also work on the upper level or on the paper level of the projects. When we look into why SAFE, for instance, why are we interested in working under SAFE as AkiDwA? So again, as Dr. Salome mentioned, we've been working on FGM and early forced marriage since, before like 25 years or so. So this was a very good opportunity for us to step on, to enhance our achievements, and as well, based on, it was in line to our values and as well as the strategic plan under AkiDwA. So because of the increase of the risks of FGM and AFM, we saw the need to implement this project even more than ever, even speaking from Ireland. So one of the objectives of SAFE is to have a coordinated response and professional guidance, because, for instance, when we come into Ireland, there isn't much. There is an awareness going on, but not as much, especially when we look into early forced marriage. So that was, I would say, the need to push us into working on SAFE. And then also in terms of the community, we saw a huge gap in terms of support and assistance for women who've undergone AFM and FGM. Those women are left by themselves where they're really confused where to go. And as well, when you look into institutions, some institutions were also confused on to where exactly they can refer them. So we thought, it was also up to us to take on this project and at least, give that extra hand for women who are in need of such support. So when we briefly go into the activities, so initially, the first step would be where we train community experts and community leaders. So each partner have 5 community experts and 2 community leaders, overall 7 team members. So the aim is not only like the project coordinator to be doing the activities, but to have another 8 team member under us where they can develop where they can implement the activity by themselves. This gives us an opportunity gives the opportunity for the community to relate themselves, because these 8 community leaders and experts are from practicing countries. They're based in Ireland, but they are from a practicing countries which makes it easier for them to implement the activities because they can build trust and high engagement within the community because of that relationship. Aside from that, we also have toolkits where we develop. So this is also again across all 6 partners where we develop different types of toolkits. It means like information materials. It might be a video, it might be a slide, it might be a leaflet, like any information material on AFM and FGM. So once we have the format and the template, that's uploaded to a whole new online platform, which we're still working on as well. So by the end of this project, we're hoping to have an online platform where anyone can go in and access this information and also use it for their own awareness and as well, to train others in terms of engagement. And then we also have training key professionals as one of the activities where we train health professionals, frontline workers, educators, both at the university, primary and secondary schools. And then we also have trainings to different social sectors as well as people working within the asylum process. Aside from that, we also train not only train, but we also try to engage the community, which is called the behavioral change engagement, where we reach out to the community, part of the community, residents of asylum centers, where we inform them about FGM and AFM, how harmful it is, where they can exactly go if they need assistance, and so forth. Another interesting activity under the SAFE project would be the advocacy part of the package, where we advocate nationally, but as well at the European level. So nationally speaking, AkiDwA has been advocating for this for so long, together with other organizations based here. But now to get a chance to advocate at the EU level meant really it really increased the threshold for us as well. So where we're aiming, so we're basically aiming to create an EU intervention chain model where we eventually have a unified set of intervention models to follow as a country. So in the end, hopefully that will help protect and as well prevent AFM and FGM from happening both in Ireland and both in EU and as well, worldwide. So we have empowering communities, training community experts and leaders. Again, we have 8 of them. That would mean around 40 altogether. So that's a huge number of experts to have just within this project. So AkiDwA is still in the implementation phase of SAFE because we'll finish this on around September 2027. So we're still implementing this project, but within the implementation, I would say the key area we thought needed attention was how do we reach and make meaningful engagement within the practicing community. So this isn't just another project. We just, tick a box and move on. We wanted it to have a lasting effect in the community. So for instance, if I work and if one activity is going on in Galway, we want to make sure that activity has a lasting effect. So we also have a point where we also have community multipliers. So we basically it's like train the trainer. We basically train different parts of the community so they can also take on that role by themselves. And as well, culturally speaking, because both AFM and FGM are categorized under harmful traditional practices, we're trying to give more attention to how to approach it in a culturally sensitive way, rather than just not considering, the cultural aspect of it. So we're always trying to be more culturally competent when implementing such project with the community. So that would be a bit of the SAFE project, but I'm sure I can also share a link if you'd like to dig deeper into the SAFE project or even involve with us more. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you so much, Bethlehem, to give us like a little bit more details on this project. And actually, this helps a lot to see that because you mentioned those concrete outputs like trainings, toolkits, online platforms, advocacy activities, even so people can actually see what can be funded in such a project. And this is also what relates to also what Salome said before, align it with your ongoing activities, right? Like, let's say you wanted to increase your community experts and leaders, like the number of that. So you can do it via this project. It actually gives you the capacity to build on the work you've done already, and then take it further to the next step. So let's say this is your goal. And I really liked also, so thanks a lot for sharing like a little bit more on the very details of the project. And I can also highly recommend just what Salome said. Build your work like European work strategically. This is what we're praying like at every nearly every training. So related to your current work. So maybe you have like your mission, you have your key areas of work, but then align it with these EU policy objectives, but make it all strategically. So really build your project strategically up around the work that you're anyways doing, and then you can find the fitting partners, as Salo also mentioned, or Bethlehem said. You had like the lead partner is Terre Femme here in Germany, so you have like a strong lead partner who's actually able also to manage it. Taking on the role of the lead partner is always like it's a big commitment, and you need the resources to do so. And there was also one tip mentioned, I think it was you, Salome, to have like European networks in the whole like consortium, or at least in the activity. And this is also often our top tip to find partners. You will just find you are like present on the European level. People can see you, what you've done before, so they actually can also reach out to you, and you can be found. But also you have the possibility to reach out to others. So find a European network working in your area, and then sign up, get active there, and then this actually brings you kind of like this on the European level, and you can be seen. And also thank you so much for mentioning like all the work that needs to be done, that you need to be really organized with the work packages, with the capacities, make sure that you have all the resources. Documentation and especially auditing can be like super, super stressful and requires a lot of resources and requires a lot of work. You signed a binding contract there, and they check up on that. And those audits they can be crazy. So seriously. Good. Now I see that like our time is nearly up. Thanks a lot so much for sharing all of these very practical insights. This helps a lot, I think, to really understand what is the reality of this, implementing a CERV project. I haven't seen too many questions there in the chat. I saw that some were already answered. I saw that there was a question around the CERV NCP for Ireland yet. So yeah, we're constantly asking. We're even trying to, as a wheel, we try to be the national contact point. So we try to kind of get this role officially, but no, there's no decision on that yet. I'm so sorry. Like we do that once, twice a year. We just ask, is there any decision? But there's none. So I didn't see any other question. Maybe I missed one. You can put it in the chat there. I think there was one for the union strand, but I'm not so sure if I can answer that. And I think there was a question around, I've noticed that in the past calls under the union strand, many awarded grants that are focused on one country only. And I think the question was, is it more competitive? But I'm not so sure if I understand that question. Maybe Philip, have you seen that question? And can you answer to that? Or Emily?
I can't answer it, but I can
Yeah.
interpret it. So it's, I think this person's asking about like the financial support for third parties. So if they apply for that, is it that they can only provide financial support to Irish organizations, or can they also provide financial support to other EU member state organizations? I think that's the gist of the question. So Philip, do you have any insight on that?
That will depend on the grant they will receive on the grant agreement. Usually, they will be able to also provide sub-granting to entities in other countries.
Okay, and that would
Mostly
probably
in
make for a more competitive application if they do that, as opposed to just focusing on Irish organizations?
Normally, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Hope that
Okay.
answers your question, Marta.
So thanks a lot, everyone. I would just like to share my screen for very last information on a couple of things there, because we would like to send you off with some supports that we offer and some upcoming events. No, that's not working out. Let me stop share. Okay. Okay, so first of all, I would like to mention the partner database again that we've set up. This is for Irish organizations. You can set up a profile for your organization on this partner database. What we're planning in March, actually starting with March, is a European campaign. So we will promote this partner database to all our networks and partners in Europe. And this is a possibility for you to be found. So make sure you set up a project, a profile there for your organization, and then people can contact you directly if they would like to partner with you on a project. So this is just my first tip. Please do that. Check out our website, accesseurope.ie, and set up a profile. Then this event is coming up, but I have to say directly as a disclaimer, it's a partner matchmaking event, and we have like a certain amount of tickets for the Irish organizations, and then you will meet organizations from other EU countries. So it's a proper matchmaking networking event with breakout rooms where you can pitch your project idea also, and where you can meet and talk to other organizations from other EU countries. However, the Irish tickets are nearly sold out. So this was going super quick. We know this is usually very popular. We created now a wait list. So just wanted to mention that this is like a matchmaking event that we've created now for CERV calls especially. And then just to mention, there are also some info sessions run by the European Commission. These are official info sessions. This is run by the EACEA. So there's one coming up on the 26th of February. This is on the Network of Towns call. So if you're interested in that, check this out. This is like really official info sessions with lots of informations. You can also ask questions usually. And I can imagine that more of those info sessions come up. So either monitor their website or just go to our website, the accesseurope.ie. We have there now this new event calendar where we actually collect all events connected to EU funding, all events connected to a relevant EU policy. So we will definitely also communicate those events if we see them in this event calendar. And then just for to wrap this up, we Access Europe, and we're a support service for the Irish Civil Society. So you're welcome to check out our website. We mentioned that before. You're also very welcome to send us an email at europe.wheel.ie. And then we have our newsletter. I've posted the link to this, to the registration form already in the chat, where we share EU funding deadlines, the open calls, events, more news around everything around funding. And then, of course, you're also very welcome to follow us on LinkedIn, where we share daily news, updates, everything around EU funding. And with this having said, yes, we're 5 minutes over our time. I think that's totally fine. I would like to wrap up this session. Thank you everyone for contributing. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Mac, for sharing information on the CERV program. Thank you, Philip, for joining us. We're super happy about this collaboration. And thank you so much, Salome and Bethlehem. This was so great information. I think this is the best to really, because sometimes it's hard to imagine really the reality of it, implementing this project. And good luck and congratulations that you actually received now the follow-up funding for this project. So good luck for this. And yeah, we will send a follow-up email including the recording and all the slides. I hope this has been beneficial.